Glad you took some time out of your evening on a beautiful day to join us to learn about basically how to save some money, how to make your home more efficient by getting some help, getting some low cost help to come in and bring a building science perspective to understanding your home. This evening, we're going to talk, there's the agenda there, just sort of cover the basics, talk about, what you can kind of do, what can be achieved with a home energy audit. I think of it as an enormous opportunity because when I go into homes, I'm looking for opportunity. I'm looking for ways to save folks money, make them more comfortable, improve air quality, improve durability, improve their investment, all kinds of good stuff. We'll go through what the priorities of an audit should be, and then cover some details of the process and different things that might be part of an audit, everything from just a straight walkthrough to some hardcore diagnostic tests. And as Stacy said, I really would welcome questions through this. So I'm just not talking to my computer for an hour, which unfortunately I can do. But I'd love to have some interaction and maybe talk about your house. We can do that. There are going to be lots of pictures as we go. A lot really meant to just illustrate points. What you see right there, you'll see some of these through the evening, is shot from infrared photography. So sort of a heat map of parts of a room right there, showing how the ceiling insulation is, there's a big gap in the ceiling insulation there. The blue is colder temperature, the yellow is moderate, and then the red is hotter. So that's one of our tools in the field, is to use the infrared camera. And so we're going to see lots of examples of where the hot or cold, in this case, it must be a winter's day, and there's a gap in the insulation, and so cold is getting through where they don't want it. A little bit about Viridiant, where Stacy and I work. We're a nonprofit based right here in Richmond. There are 12 full-time folks, and we've been around since '06. And for a while, for a long time, it was known as Earthcraft Virginia. We rebranded a few years ago because we do a lot more than just the Earthcraft certification system. But over the years, it's really had a pretty big impact. 30,000 homes being certified and tested, and in multiple inspections to make sure they meet green built criteria. And almost a year ago, right as the pandemic was starting, we launched our community energy services to really go directly into our community and help folks with on-the-ground services like energy audits, solar consultations, energy efficient mortgages, to really bring more tools to people right here in our community. All right, so let's jump into it. Attic insulation. Interestingly enough, in the 70s when I was a kid, my dad had a summer job for an insulation company. And he came home filthy covered with that cellulose insulation there. And my point is that we've been insulating houses for a long time. And everyone kind of knows, oh yeah, attic insulation, we need good attic insulation. And I routinely, daily, go into homes where it's, working on 50 years later, it still isn't quite up to what it ought to be. Maybe what you see on the left there, where it's really less than 3.5 inches, that's kind of what we were doing in the mid 70s. But on the right there, you see there's the back of drywall. Here's more houses where insulation is missing. Maybe the cable guy was up there and got those pesky insulation bats out of his way while he was running wires. Over here, we see backs of ventilation fans where the cold conducts right through. In this picture where you can see the can light, I mean, the can light's only about 3 inches taller than the, and can you all see my cursor? Is that, I don't know if folks can see the cursor. But the picture on the left, there's a can light in the middle. And yeah, it's not much taller than what you see there. So it's indicating that there's only 2 or 3 inches of insulation right there, which isn't enough. Same thing in the picture on the right. That's a 2x4 curb sort of in the middle, holding back insulation so it doesn't go down in those folks' closet. And it's showing there's, I mean, barely an inch or two of insulation in that ceiling. Those are my kids you'll hear in the background. You know, there again on the left, on the right, lots of drywall, lots of missing insulation, and it's just, I don't know, to me it's, I mean, the good news is like, well, people could, I mean, this is the good news. It would be very cost effective to start paying a lot less. That's the good news. I mean, it's a shame that they haven't been saving for years, but the good news is that they can spend just a little bit and save a lot of money. Here on the left, we have an open chase, an open cavity through the building where the ductwork is going, and it's just wide open to the attic. And so if it's wintertime up in the attic, cold air is going to fall down into that hole around that duct. Well, one of the walls in that hole is the back of these folks' closet in their master bedroom, and they ask me, why is it freezing cold in this closet? Why are my clothes all cold? And I'm like, well, turns out the back wall of that closet, which is in the middle of the house, is essentially an exterior wall because there's cold attic air on the other side. And I find these sorts of things all the time where basically we haven't done a good job separating inside from out, drawing that boundary between what we call conditioned space, where we're heating and cooling, versus unconditioned space, where we're not. So maybe you just bought a brand new house, and I spent a lot of time inspecting brand new houses to make sure they meet code, to make sure they meet above code programs. And I mean, these are both houses where the energy code at the time and as it is now would have required 10 1/4 inches of that loose cellulose. And here's a big section where the installer had written off on what it would be, the building official, the builder, everyone was happy with how it was insulated until I went up and poked around and found really big deficits. Over there on the right, what we're seeing is how often the insulation might be nice and thick in the middle of the attic where it's easy to get to, but you get off into the eaves, often in the hard to reach places, and it can really tapers off. And you see that a lot. And it really shows up in the infrared how you get off to the edges and the insulation is not what it should be. So it's just sort of one of those basic elements of construction that we really should do well on, and we often don't. The slide on the left is showing just sort of gaps and bats where we look up there and say, well, there's the bats are there, but installation quality, craftsmanship matters, and those big gaps over top of that vaulted ceiling there, we're up in the attic looking at the insulation. Those big gaps really matter. Again, the infrared on the inside will show big cold spots here. On the right, we have, that's a supply register for an HVAC system. And somehow there's loose insulation inside the ducts, which tells us there's probably some duct leakage along the way. So another big topic we'll talk about in a minute. So why would you do a home energy audit? What are the benefits? You know, I'm going to talk mostly about energy, and energy relates directly to money, but I mean, the truth is health, safety, comes first. And every time when we're talking about stopping drafts, fixing duct leakage, there is very much a health safety component to that, having cleaner air in your home. Obviously financial, because you pay for the energy, and comfort too. I mean, we're routinely solving comfort issues, often around, like I was just describing with that, well, the clothes weren't cold, but why was that interior wall cold? And it's because it was open to the attic. But hot rooms, cold rooms, a lot of it's about understanding the airflow through the ducts, which is so often totally neglected, and then really understanding the actual performance of the insulation, not just is some amount of insulation present, but is it doing its job? And all this, obviously, too, there's our carbon footprint and driving down our consumption of fossil fuels. It's all adds up to great big opportunity for everyone. So an energy audit or analysis or inspection, or, I mean, pick your word, it's, a learning exercise. We want to provide our clients with new information to help them better understand the house than they did previously. And really, I see the audit as kind of my clients' private crash course in home energy use and building science in the comfort of their home, where everything is that much more relevant because it's about their money, and we always see things a little differently when it's our own money. So we want to understand the science, we want to understand the economics, and we want to understand how things really play together, because a lot of the process is talking to the client, understanding how they use the house, understanding their lessons over time to put together a lot of complex pieces, and then take all that and give them something they can use. Maybe you've had some reports come through your life that, oh, here's another report that doesn't get followed up on. Our goal is to help you actually do something, help you improve your home, improve your quality of life, to drive down our community's carbon footprint. And so we want you to really understand it, and our audits then prioritize improvements, show you what's no cost, what's low cost, what are some more complex things that you might have to save for or find a contractor for. We want to really enable you to do the work, and not just be frustrated by it, to see it as an opportunity and not a problem. So we'll always have an interview. We'll always do an inspection. We'll probably do a utility bill analysis. I always want to see my clients' electric bills, if they have gas or oil. Want to see how much energy they're using and how that changes through the seasons to understand more about the house. We can do some diagnostic tests, and I'll talk about them later, probably mostly pressure tests of the home or the ductwork. A lot of our programs are going to come with a lot of free stuff. Utility rebates that will pay for us while we're there to install LED lights, to insulate hot water pipes if you have an electric water heater. A really high-end additional service might be to actually do a computer simulation, an energy model of your house, to calculate remarkably precisely what would be the exact ROI, return on investment, of particular investments that you might, particular improvements you might be considering. You need a written report to refer back to, and follow up. I'd love to hear from previous clients what they've actually done, what's been their experience, what other people have said about their home, and let this be an ongoing process to improve the home. And here, this is kind of, those are houses I've audited. I mean, they run the gamut, historic, eclectic, and modest. You know, it's for everyone. Low income, high income, everybody needs a home energy audit. Is pretty true. Step one, go into the dirty places. That's where you learn stuff. In the crawl spaces, poking around, in the attics, in the basements. You know, many times I've said, well, I need to go in the attic, and like, no, I don't go there. Well, I'm going to go there. That's where we're going to find out. That's where we're going to find some opportunity. So, and this is the single most important aspect of the visit. A utility bill analysis. So we can learn some things. We can discern. It's helpful to know what's your cooling energy use spike. When does it happen? How much is it? Same for winter. And what is that energy use that's consistent year round? And there are software programs that can disaggregate all that data, and a lot we can understand just by looking at it. And it also helps just to have someone who has looked at a lot of bills to look at your bill and say, oh, that's pretty low, or that's pretty high, or boy, it's really erratic. What's, you know, help me understand what's going on here. Do we have a problem? So yeah, you can learn a lot by looking at the data, no surprise. Another diagnostic test we might do is to test the safety of fuel-fired appliances. A gas boiler, a gas furnace, cook stoves, gas logs, anything where you have a flame, there's risk of backdrafting, there's risk of excess carbon monoxide, and we want to make sure that the pollutants, the exhaust from that flame, make their way to the outside. The blower door test may be sort of the best known diagnostic test associated with energy audits. It's you know, it's kind of the marquee tool we have, and it's a big fan. You see a picture there on the right. Big fan we put in the door of the house or your home or apartment, whatever, condo, and we depressurize the house. We suck air out of it, and not, I mean, we're in the house. It's not, you know, you don't have to hold your breath. You don't have to leave the house. Everything's fine. You don't even notice it. But we are simulating a 20-mile-an-hour wind hitting all 6 sides of the building at once, and then we get it to a particular test pressure, and then there's a device in that picture called a manometer with the 9, 10, 11, 12 white buttons that will tell us how many units of air are going through the fan in order to get it to that pressure. So, and those are the numbers that we can compare house to house and determine your air changes per hour, which is basically the number of your home's draftiness. There's a measure for that. It's not just good or bad. It's a numerical number. To be repetitive. And so that's useful. We can find out, oh, well, it's pretty good or it's pretty bad. You know, surprisingly good, surprisingly bad, somewhere in the middle. And also, while it's running, we can walk around and feel for those leaks. And we can even operate the infrared while it's going, which gives us more perspective on how air might be moving behind the walls. So an incredibly useful tool. Another one is it's sort of a mini blower door. It's one just for your duct system. So we isolate your whole duct system. We tape off all the registers, and then we pressurize it and see how leaky it is. And you'd be surprised how much some systems leak. And some of that air, if you have, say, an attic, a vented attic, and there's ductwork up there and it leaks, well, all that air is just being lost up to the attic. It's not doing you much good at all. Or say the ductwork is in a vented crawl space and it leaks. And some leak very little. That's possible to get them essentially airtight. Some installers do. And then I find many houses where leakage is what I call catastrophic, where it's 20 or even 30% of the air moving through the system is not getting to where it's supposed to go. So you can imagine what that does to your costs for heating and cooling if 30% of the air is just going somewhere else. I kind of compare it to having a leak in the gas tank of your car. It's just abject waste. And many people could go along for years and have no idea. I routinely find pictures of big duct leaks, just from me poking around in the attic or in the crawl space or in the basement. I find disconnected ducts. I find pieces missing off of the air handler unit and just air either blowing into the crawl space or sucking in air from the crawl space or attic. And so this is truly a huge opportunity for health and safety, as well as for efficiency and for durability, because when unfiltered air gets sucked in right to the air handler, you get dust on the coil, you get dust on the fan, and none of that works as well anymore. Yeah, big opportunity. We don't do this test often, but sometimes, a lot of people find that their ventilation fans aren't really doing anything. So, well, we can measure that. We can see exactly how much air using this bolometer there on the right to see, well, when it's running, how much air does it actually move? The fan could be rated for 50 cubic feet per minute, and often it'll be moving less than 20. In part because the duct that the fan is trying to push the air into is so twisty and turny and crushed and long that it just can't move the air through. Infrared scans, amazing high-tech opportunity. The big picture there is like a vaulted ceiling in the room of a house, and that the wall part of the vault at the end there, that triangle you'd see, the insulation is basically fallen off the wall on the back. So if you went up in the attic there, you'd see that probably fiberglass bats that had been installed in those cavities between the framing have just fallen off. I see that a lot. On the upper right, you can see where essentially it's what we call thermal bridging, where the studs in the wood have less ability to insulate than the insulated cavities around them. And so that's showing the warm area. This would probably be a summer's day where the wood is warming up and conducting heat into the home, whereas the insulated space around it is not conducting like that. And then that down below is sort of typical ceiling where the bats, the fiberglass bat insulation up in the attic, there's chunks missing, there's big gaps there. So this is a really powerful tool for finding the things that you can't see, and to really, I think it's an incredible communication tool for clients who aren't, don't deal with this stuff day to day, to actually get that visual of oh, here's what's going on behind the drywall. On to the freebies. In many jurisdictions, right here in the Richmond area included, there are utility rebates where the utility is basically trying to buy down energy use in the community. So we're a participant in Dominion's home energy assessment program, where, basically what they're paying us to do is go out and install pipe insulation, which is incredibly cost effective, to put in LED lights, to take out incandescents and even CFLs and put in super efficient LEDs. So this is a real opportunity. When we do this for our clients, they don't pay anything extra, and they get the stuff installed. I've installed over 100 feet of this pipe insulation in houses. I've installed 40 or 50 LEDs in houses, and they just paid the fat the flat $45 registration fee for that basic service. So another opportunity. Energy modeling. So this is the computer simulation of the house that I mentioned, where we can, as you see on the right, basically we build the house. It knows all the surfaces of the house. It knows where the windows are, where the doors, what's the energy performance of those windows. It knows what heating and cooling equipment is in there. And so based on that, the table on the left is showing you, how many BTUs it needs to heat that home in a year's time. And the cooling load, we have two different kinds of cooling, sensible and latent. Latent is the humidity and how much energy it's going to take to keep that home comfortable in the summer. And you see the two columns, the base and the improved. What that is showing how this energy model was designed to show you, here's what the house uses now. And with those proposed upgrades you see in the big table on the right, how much they will drive down the heating, the energy you need for heating, the energy you need for cooling, etc. So, it's pretty amazing. So often you get a window salesman who says, oh, these will cut your energy bills by 20%. What? How do they know it's going to do that in this house? They don't. Or this new heat pump will cut your bills by 30%. Well, maybe there's a lot of other things going on in the house. This is how you actually know. You can really get these numbers but it takes a lot more than just someone eyeballing it and saying, I'm going to throw in these new windows. We have to do measurements of the entire house. We have to know how much of the surface area of the house has what kind of insulation installed at what level of craftsmanship. It's a lot of detail. And it costs some money to get one of these reports. But if you're considering some big changes, like a big remodel or dropping $10,000, $15,000 in a new heating and cooling system, this could be a smart thing to do. And to also understand what is the cost effectiveness of a bunch of other strategies that maybe you weren't considering. The final column on the right, SIR, is savings to investment ratio. It's basically telling you, is it a good deal? And if that number is if it's over 2, it's a great deal. If it's less than 1, you're not necessarily going to make any money off of it over the life of that product. So you see here in this particular case, the new heating and cooling system is not even quite breaking it even. But maybe they need a new, if your furnace is dead, your furnace, you got to replace it. So here it's showing the cost effectiveness of, while you're doing that, do some of this other stuff as well. Sealing air leaks, incredibly cost effective. Attic improvements, that's probably insulation and air sealing, super cost effective. Adjusting the thermostat, which after you make all those insulation and air sealing improvements, these folks may be able to adjust that thermostat. The installed cost might be switching to and here I would think a Wi-Fi programmable thermostat. So that's basically the cost of like a Nest or an Ecobee there, because regular programmable thermostats cost $30. Upgrading the lighting shows you how incredibly cost effective LEDs are. So even insulating walls, in this case, they must have been in very poor shape and relatively accessible to have such a great savings to investment ratio. So, this is all kind of incredible that, I think people don't realize there's such a precise tool to help them understand the costs and benefits of doing home energy upgrades. I've been talking a lot. I told you I could do this, and so Feel free to jump in with questions, questions about your home, or ask for a friend. You can always ask for a friend. So the report, you know, the big and these are I give folks a lot of information where it's covering health safety, it's prioritizing, as you see there, where, you know, I'm after, you know, health safety first and then bang for the buck, help you know where to start. And have this report, I send it electronically, I can send you hard copies, whatever you need, have this as an ongoing resource to guide thinking about your home. And I'll have a copy here. You can call me up in 5 years and I'll pull up pictures and look at the report, and we'll talk through where you are now and where you're headed. It's meant to be a real help. And the more work we do on site, if we do infrared scans, if we do blower door tests, all that data will be captured in the report as well. Again, following up on that issue of making it enabling, making it actionable. I mean, the first question I hand the report and they say, great, who's gonna, I'll do these things, but who's gonna do all the rest? We have some sort of preferred contractors in the region that we often refer folks to, folks who we know understand building science, who understand the value of craftsmanship, and who know that we're always watching and we're always on the side of the consumer. That, you know, I routinely help folks get multiple bids and then help them compare those bids to understand what might be best for them and, you know, according to their priorities. And to also say, well, this bid didn't include XYZ, or that one did, or that one did this well, because there's enormous variability. And unfortunately, I mean, yeah, a lot of you know, a lot of contractors aren't so inclined to put a lot into words, and so I'm always, you know, you want that clarity, you want details in the proposal so you know exactly what you're getting, and that's where someone experiencing it in the industry can help you as an advocate by saying you need to look for these certain things, and if they're not specified, you need to go back and say, I need a more detailed bid. There is, here in Virginia, if someone is offering you home energy advice, they have to have a license. Virginia has a residential building energy analyst, it's a mouthful, license that folks are supposed to have. And besides that, they should, I mean, frankly, the big thing is experience. Doing audits, understanding how homes are built, understanding how to use their equipment. I might throw in motivation here, because you got to be willing to go into the dirty places and to really do that investigative work and problem solving to solve the mysteries that are out there. Folks will have to have classing, they'll have to have professional certifications from organizations like the Building Performance Institute or ResNet. Those are the two primary credentialing nonprofit organizations nationally that offer the certifications that a home energy auditor should have. So what does it cost? Well, a diagnostic audit, sort of a walkthrough with blower door, you know, whole house inspection with blower door test, which is sort of the standard audit around the country. It's going to run $300 to $500 in most markets, and will come with a detailed report. Often, if there's a rebate in the community through some entity, often a utility, that could change things somewhat. And what I've mentioned a few times is that we can do just a walkthrough audit for $45. That comes where you get just the basic service of the inspection, a report, and but you also get the LEDs and the hot water saving equipment installed. Hot water if you have an electric water heater, because this is a rebate from Dominion. And then we offer the diagnostic testing as add-ons to those services. So it's a way to sort of pick and choose from a menu, but have, we think, a very low entry point for folks who just need the basics and can make that investment. And when folks call us, one of our first questions is, do they think they might qualify for a low-income program? Because if they do, they can get the inspection and a bunch of improvements for free. Folks who are elderly, I think it's over 65, don't quote me on that, or veteran status. Dominion has programs that will provide extensive free services for them. We'll refer those folks here in the Richmond area to Project Homes, which is the local federal weatherization provider, who also administers those low-income Dominion programs. So whoever you are, wherever you are, there's something for you. There's either a very low cost walkthrough audit from Viridiant, or a free service from a more of a social service agency. And I should note that those installations, on average, they're saving our clients more than $100 a year. So there's your $45 back already. Besides, like I said, up to 40 LEDs. That's some money right there too. So I've been going quickly. We're at 7:40. This is record time for me. To recap, what are the benefits? Improving your health and safety, saving you money, solving comfort problems, lowering your environmental impact, solving mysteries in your home, or even just, getting a second opinion on how to deal with a particular problem, or where to put your money, or you're shopping new heat pumps, or you've heard about tankless water heaters. Are they right for you? You've heard about solar. Is that right for you? Having someone in the industry with years and years in the industry to come in and help you make your best decision on these issues that affect all those things right there. And I like showing this pie chart here, because so much of this is based on knowing where our money goes, knowing that in the average house, and this chart gets dated every year, but we haven't gotten much good data lately. Knowing where the energy goes and knowing what to tackle first, knowing where you're going to get the biggest bang for the buck, knowing that water heating is a big driver for a lot of people. And for example, today's heat pump water heaters, which I have been around for 15 years, but no one seems to know about them, are perhaps the best investment you could make. Things like that, from cutting through some of the noise and helping folks really understand where the opportunity is. So whether you get one from us, whether you get one from someone else, there are other folks in the Richmond area. If you're outside of the Richmond area, we are happy to refer you to colleagues. There's a nonprofit in Charlottesville in Northern Virginia called LEAP, which provides these services. There are other social service agencies and building science experts around Virginia and in other states that can do a great job for you. We just think that, that if you haven't had one, you probably need one. That it is 1 in a million, about literally, homes that wouldn't benefit either modestly or enormously, as is often the case, from having this kind of expert inspection in your home. So raise your hand, ask a question about your house, ask a question about some, the latest whiz bang thing. There's lots of shiny objects out there that might be the solution to your problems, might be cost effective, might be, as I often end up saying, well, let's talk about the basics. Let's talk about the boring stuff like insulation and air sealing and duct sealing, but there are always exceptions.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm going to go ahead and actually take everyone off of mute. It just essentially will allow you to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. So I enabled that feature. So if you do have a question, looks like Muhammad has his hand raised. He snagged that back real quick. So I'm not sure if you wanted to ask a question. I went ahead and unmuted you just in case though. Oh, you muted yourself back. All right. Andrew, I'll start with a question to kick things off here. What about folks that live in more communal housing? So you have an HOA that perhaps, like at my house, I have an HOA. The HOA pays for our water bill as well as our heat in the winter. And I live in a townhouse. So how would that kind of impact my lifestyle with being able to get a home energy audit done by you?
Well, I'm sure we can. I mean, we can serve any home. As to whether or not, like the Dominion's rebate would apply, that may vary. It will apply for most townhomes. For a sort of a multifamily apartment building, we can't access any rebates, but we're still glad to come do an inspection. Unfortunately, it would cost a little more. And if for low income folks in apartments, then we could direct them to project homes. But I mean, the main thing would be call and ask, and we'll do our best to try and find a service that you can afford and will provide you real benefit. And even if you're not paying for your heat or your water, you still have an electric bill, you still are paying for cooling, and you may have some comfort issues. So we'll be there to try and help you understand some of those. Or even, I mean, it's sort of, we can focus on the things you have control over. It then might even be, here's something you can take to your HOA to talk about sort of system-wide how they could be better stewards of the property.
Great. Anyone else have any other questions? Let's see, Melvin, you're welcome to go ahead and unmute yourself. Maybe it's not letting, I went ahead and unmuted you. Or if your microphone functionality is not working, feel free to type your question in the chat. Oh, there you are.
Hi. Actually, my husband Melvin, he wasn't able to make it. His wife Anne Marie. So I'm very interested. Both my husband and myself were interested in purchasing a home, but we feel like we're being deterred from, the energy, programs that's available. It's almost as if they figure those programs are more for someone that's flipping a home, and I just feel like the home where we're living in now, we're renting, and we spend a lot of money for electrical, because everything is electric, and the home is an older home, so it's very drafty, and even though the windows were changed out, Andrew was so correct, it's like the windows were changed out, but the home still feels drafty. So we're interested in purchasing a home, but getting assistance, so we are interested in the low income, programs that's available. So I definitely will need more information in regards to that. And we just feel like we do not want to be deterred, because we want to, help out with the environment, but we also want to lower our bills, our energy bill as well.
Thanks for the question. You brought up a lot of good issues. One is if you're in a single family home or a townhome as a renter, we can still come do the $45 Dominion program and maybe I think do a couple of things. We can't force your landlord to, invest much money in ductwork, but maybe, I mean, doing the inspection and having a report to give to the landlord may convince them to do some basic improvements. I've certainly found things that any decent person would be, shamed into doing, I'd hope. And also with the LEDs and often if you have an electric water heater, I mean, all brand new houses don't get pipe wrap installed on them. It's a shame because it's incredibly cost effective. We could do that, and that could lower your bill a little bit. And as to buying a new home, so and this is tricky, but what I recommend to folks is when they find a home they're interested in, I mean, just give me a call and give the address, and I can tell you a few things just from looking at it on Google Earth as to what, and knowing the age of the home, what are some likely cost-effective energy improvements. And for example, what I did when I bought the home I'm in now 4 years ago, I did a rehab loan, and which not everyone can do, but there are lots of there's a 203K, which is a HUD rehab
Yes,
loan. Fannie
the
Mae
FH.
has a rehab loan where you can borrow a little extra to make the energy improvements that ideally will drive down will reduce your total cost of ownership. You'll end up paying a slightly higher mortgage. You'll say, in my case, I added the improvements I made added $52 a month to my mortgage, but they saved me $72 a month in energy costs. So I save money month to month and am doing good for the environment. I'm not going to say it improved comfort because in this case it was solar panels on the roof, but that happened to be very cost effective. But the basic point is, and I know this is really hard because when you're buying a home, it's just like, this is such an ordeal. Just get me
Yeah.
through it and let's close. Everyone just wants to close. But
Yeah.
the smart money says, hold on, let me find out what are the cost-effective energy improvements, roll them into the mortgage, get them done before I move in, and then I enjoy lower total costs from then on being in the home. That's
Yes.
what the smart money does. It's real hard to do,
Yes.
but if you can, reach out to us and we're here to help.
Yes, definitely. I want to do that because I feel like it's almost like, oh, don't worry about it. As long as it's a new, we'll check to see how old are the windows. We'll check to see, if the roofing has been done, recently. But, technically, you don't really have to check on these things, and I just feel like we need to do it. We wanted to do it the correct way, but we've been deterred from it. I mean, it could be because they do not have as much experience with low
Yeah.
income programs.
Well, and
So
also people don't, I mean, unfortunately, folks, I mean, from home inspectors to real estate agents, in
yes,
my experience,
the
they're
patience.
just not, I mean, this is not their area of
Yes,
expertise.
yes,
They are looking at different things.
yes,
And we are laser focused on how is the building using energy, how is air moving, what are drivers of comfort, that we just point out a different set of opportunities than other folks in the broader housing industry.
yes. And you make a good point when you're saying, the higher mortgage is higher mortgage, but in the long run it will pay off, you
Well,
know?
it's not, it's, I mean, you're paying, say, your cost of your mortgage plus your mortgage is $800 and your bill, I wish, and your bill and your utility bills are $200. That's $1,000. And it doesn't matter to you whether it's, which one is what portion of that $1,000. But if it were $950, that'd be better. And so if we raise your mortgage by to 825, but your bills go down to 125, well, then you're saving $50 a month from day one.
Yes. Yes.
It's not pays off in the future. It's from day one, and that is entirely possible.
Yes, and that's how I feel, because I feel now I have to challenge myself, and my husband, we feel the same way, that we have to challenge ourselves now to try to do this, even though it seems impossible, and we just don't want to rush to do it, because at one point I was thinking, well, probably I can get the bill from the seller, but not all sellers may want to give you that bill, to see how it's going to be for the home.
Yeah, well, good luck. And please, reach out. There's my information. That's what we're here for.
I will definitely reach out to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so Andrew's information is there. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, the survey is going to go out in the end as well. So if you are interested in services or submitting feedback that way, Andrew will see those as well. We've got another question coming in from Sarah. So let me get you unmuted, Sarah. Okay, if you want to go ahead and ask your question. Maybe. Well, while we wait to see if Sarah is able to connect to audio, and Sarah, feel free to drop your question in the chat if you're not able to. I think one of the really important things that Andrew just brought up from the prior question is that home energy audits are not only for homeowners. So, renters still pay utility bills and want better comfort and quality in the homes that they're living in. So, definitely take that into consideration and share with any friends that are also considering home energy audits, that you don't have to own your home to be able to take advantage of these programs. Sarah might not be with us. So does anyone else have any other questions? Feel free to raise your hand or drop anything into the chat. We've got a couple more minutes here, so feel free to pick Andrew's brain as long as you can, or reach out to him afterwards if you're more comfortable that way as well. No? Oh, let's see, Mohammed here. All right, I've unmuted you, Mohammed, so go ahead.
Hello, good evening, Henry, and you. Hope you have a good day. I have a question from Henry about isolation for the outside of the doors, the door that for the entrance. Is there any methods or system that it's also going to be isolated? Because I have an example. I was living in a rental house during the winter time. That door was getting so cold when I was touching from the inside. It was very cold. I shared this my concern 2 or 3 times with the landlord, but unfortunately, as the house was too old, they didn't take any action, and they said, okay, we will put some like rubber or something on the bottom. But honestly, it didn't help, or only they just did something, but not like practically or like tangibly did something. Is there any solution that they have to do this if we face with the same problem in the future? What's your experience about this?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Doors are tough. I mean, it sounds like in this case you had one where the material was not. I mean, maybe it was an older, more thin wooden door, or even one that was metal but was not insulated on the inside. I mean, like anything. I mean, think of jackets. You can have a light jacket or you can have a really heavy winter jacket, and because of its insulation, because of the how the thickness of the down or the polyfill inside the lining. And you just had it sounds like you had a door that was not particularly well insulated. Brand new ones come in different levels of insulation, just like a brand new winter coats come in different levels of heat retaining ability. One thing that can be done, if for some reason they really wanted to keep that old door, maybe it was historic, is to add a storm door on the outside. So a glass door that hopefully seals well around the perimeter. And that's always crucial. It sounds like what they did is they installed what we call a sweep, the rubber on the bottom of the door to create a better air seal at the bottom. You also need good weather stripping around, which is some cushion, or it's usually some sort of cushion type material that when the door shuts, it creates an air seal. You want to stop air leaks around the door, but you also want the door to be loose enough to open. And those 2 points are always in conflict. And then, adding a storm door creates another layer, creates an air pocket, ideally, between the storm door and the main door. And air pockets is insulation is all about creating pockets of air. So that would generate some benefit there too. So ultimately, we can make doors perform better from a thermal standpoint. The cheapest fix would be just adding a sweep. Then it would be adding weather stripping. Then it would be adding a storm door. We wouldn't usually add something to an existing door that's your main, front door of your home. If it were a door, say, to a garage or an attic, I might suggest gluing some foam board insulation to the back of it, if appearances didn't matter at all. But that's not usually the case on our front door. So, did that answer your question?
Yes, I got the answer, but unfortunately, the landlords will not spend that much money to install another door.
No.
But for my experience, yes, for my experience, thank you so much. I got the answer. And now I found the answer that there are some houses that they have 2 doors. That's why they install the second door for the storm or something. And it's a good experience for me. Appreciate it. And one more question about the attic insulation, like you explained at the beginning. So there are some houses, I have experience not here in the US, but from overseas. If the house is made from concrete and they have any a second roof, like you said, as an attic insulation, is there any solution for that? This is my this is an outside question. I'm sorry, but just give me a short answer for this, for my experience, that I should get something from you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can add insulation under the ceiling. I mean, you can sort of build anything if there's room to essentially drop down a layer and put insulation up and then maybe cover it with plaster drywall. Also, there are times when we put foam board insulation on top of an existing roof and then put a new roofing material over that. Often like a rubber membrane can go over foam. So yeah, there are lots of ways to add insulation to just that concrete block.
I was living in a house. It was a very nice house, but during the summer it was like a stove, very warm, and in the winter it was like a chilly. So that's why.
Yep.
Yes, thank you very much.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thanks, Mohammed. We'll take this one last question. Jasmine, I see you have activated the question mark feature there. So I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you. And if you're still with us, feel free to unmute yourself on your end and go ahead and ask your question, and then we'll get wrapped up for the evening. I see your microphone did go green, but we don't hear you. And if you can't get your microphone to work, feel free to drop your question in the chat and I'd be happy to ask it for you to Andrew.
If Sarah's still out there and wants to chime in.
Yes. All right. Might be having some technical difficulties with a few microphones here. So Sarah, you're also unmuted if you're with us and still wanted to ask your question. All right. Oh, here we go. Okay, it got dropped into the question feature. So two questions real quick. What is the area of our service? So Andrew, we were talking about this earlier. If you want to go ahead and give your blurb on that.
Yeah, well, we serve, I mean, our office is in central Richmond, right by VCU, and sort of anything within 20, 30 miles, we're glad to come to your home. Outside of that, we'll start to, a travel charge will start to apply. And if you're in another community where there's someone we know we can recommend, we'll certainly recommend that. I mean, we want folks to stay close to home and take care of their services. But I mean, I've driven 75 miles for audits where, you know, the folks founded us, they wanted what we offered, and they were willing to pay the travel. So, but, you know, our sort of immediate Richmond vicinity is our main area of service.
And last question here that I'm finally seeing from Sarah in the questions function. They are thinking of replacement windows. They have old storms. Should they have an energy audit before or after window replacements?
If you're thinking of spending more than $45 on some improvement, spend that $45 first. Yeah, I mean, new windows, it's an enormous expense. And if you're doing it to save money, call us first. If you just want new windows, well, you know, get new windows. But call us and I'll talk to you about sort of what specs to look for and things like that. But by all means, yes, if you're thinking of replacing the windows in your home, give us a call and yeah, for $45, we'll come do, you know, where are you going to get a house call for 45 bucks? That's all you need to spend. If we think we need to do diagnostic tests, we can talk about that, but yeah, we can do a lot with the walkthrough audit.
Great, thanks, Andrew. And thanks everyone for hanging in here. I know we ran a little bit past 8, but we wanted to make sure that we got to everyone's questions, and most folks hung in there who perhaps just wanted to hear what some of those questions were, and maybe you have some of the same questions. So again, I will be sending out a survey right after this, so please do fill that out so we can continue to improve on our trainings and our programs and services. There's an opportunity there for you to request additional information about Andrew's other services, including home energy audits, solar, energy efficient mortgages, and other things that he offers in the community services division. So with that, I guess, Andrew, if you have any last remarks, we'll go ahead and wrap things up for this evening. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We hope that this was informational, and we hope to see you at a future event. I will do a quick plug. Andrew is doing a solar webinar on March 25th. That is also going to be from 7 to 8 p.m. So if you're wanting to consider solar at your home, definitely register for that webinar so you can get some additional information and figure out if that's the best path forward for your home. So with that, Andrew, I'll let you sign us off here with any last remarks. And again, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Stacy. Thanks, everyone, for your time this evening. And yeah, Solarize RVA, our campaign to bring more rooftop solar to the community. Find out if it's cost effective for you. It's an amazing technology, and that can be very cost effective at the right place at the right time. And let us help you figure that out. So that's coming up in 3 weeks. Thanks, and have a great evening. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.